Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Newsnight, and tonight we host State House Chief of Staff Nzioka Waita. We've talked a lot about the president's legacy. Of course, he's had a key role in that as well. And of course, what next for the Chief of Staff as he announces that he's looking into the world of politics after the 9th of February 2022. I've seen a lot of your messages, and I'll read some of those shortly. 22422 is the SMS line, and the hashtag is Newsnight. But on the back of the conversation, Nzioka, that we just had before the break, let's talk a little bit about campaign financing. How will you finance a gubernatorial campaign like this one?
That is the nightmare that we are all confronting. I have sat with business leaders. I have gone to see senior politicians, because some of them, depending on the party that we associate ourselves with, have resources to support us. We are not too proud to ask for support. And we will create a forum in which we will ask for support. My philosophy on this thing is, at least let's first get our message correct. Let's be clear what it is we want to engage the people of Machakos with. And then let's understand how much we need to support our campaign in order to travel across every corner. The first place I want to go to is a village called Ndidhini, because the people of Ndidhini have been forgotten. And I want to remind them that there are people who know what situation they are in at the moment, that I have been talking to grassroots mobilizers, village elders, church leaders about specifically two counties, Masinga and Yatta, which have been completely neglected from the development agenda of Machakos County. I've been talking to young people in Mavoko. I've actually made very good friends with MCA aspirants there, young guys, younger than me.
Let me actually take you back. You called it, what's the name of the village you just mentioned?
Ndidhini.
Ndidhini.
Yes.
When you go to visit them,
yes, and
they ask you for handouts,
yes,
will you give them?
Well, it depends on what they ask for. If I have 100 bob, I'll share it. But if I'm going to go, I would rather carry a plan about how we are going to make their place more secure, about how their marketplace needs electricity. I am told their Mulika Mwizi has never worked. I'm told they've not seen their ward administrator in years. I want to first have a discussion about that. And then if I have money for lunch, we shall sit and buy a mbuzi from whoever is the biggest person. Because they might tell you they can't eat the plant. They need something to eat that evening. It's a reality of our politics. It's a reality of our politics. You know, and I'm going to go to the ground with people who are custodians of the aspirations of those people there. So, and we'll see what we need to do to help them. So would the campaign financing bill, and of course it was rejected, I believe, in September 2021, would that have made a difference for aspirants like yourself? What were your thoughts on that law? Let's start there. There's no escaping the need to raise funds, right? And what makes our elections very expensive are the things you're mentioning. That you have extremities. So Machakos County, for example, starts at the airport, at the fence of the airport, at JKIA. Right around that fence, you know, if the plane overshoots the runway, it will land in Machakos. Very wealthy, industrial, huge economy up there. But the farther you go into the county, the more poor it becomes. The less infrastructure there is, the poorer the services there are. And it's such an irony that you can crisscross Machakos, theoretically, as the bird flies, in just a couple of hours. But the disparity of income between Mavoko and the people in Masinga and Yatta is so glaring. And when you look at campaign financing and what you need to do to go on the ground, I think even before you start demeaning people, because, you know, when you think about handouts and stuff like that, it can be counterproductive. From what I have seen, I have met many people and they are quite contemptuous of handouts. There always has to be a context to it. Did they come? Did they take transport to get to there? Have they been sitting under trees for the whole day waiting for you to address them? Isn't it only fair that they get a bottle of water and a meal? And these are costs you must deal with, because everywhere you go, people need a bottle of water. Many people will need a meal because they have come to sit and listen to you. And they want to present because they feel you have come to listen to their grievances and to listen to their aspirations of where they think the county should be. Some of the issues are so local that they just want you to tell them about the market. Why does this market have no toilets? Why are these stalls so broken and yet we pay money to the county? You know, these are the questions that these people want answers to. And if we're going to sit for a whole day, then we might as well buy lunch. If
they choose to ask you why you are not able to help them in the 7 years that you are in government, what would you tell them?
I'll tell them that, you know, many of them started on a journey to Canaan.
Many of who?
The community. And along the way, they got stuck. And they got stuck because they were out of government, now going to 10 years. Development, there's a direct correlation to power and the people in power and where development goes.
So did it define decisions at PDU, for example? Or?
PDU don't pick projects. Projects are designed and picked based on what the interests on the ground are. So I, for example, cannot go and say, in your home county, I want to give you a road. It's not my call. Typically, leaders from your area have petitioned the government. They have a memorandum. Your MPs have typically prepared a memorandum and said, in my constituency, in the tea growing areas or in the coffee growing areas, there are no access routes to the marketplace or to the Mbuni factory or to the cooperative. We need these roads. When this comes to the ministry prioritizes and says, we have money for the following, and the rest we don't have money, we need money from the treasury, the money is allocated. When that project appears on the vote, it then becomes a subject of interest to me as the support structure for what we call the NDICC. So in 2018, the president created an infrastructure called the NDICC, Executive Order number 1 of 2019, chaired by the Honorable Dr. Fred Matiang'i. The purpose of PDU is to make sure that that cabinet committee is fully seized of the status of projects across the board. So if you've received money as a state department or an implementing entity, you must be able to show what you have done with this money. If you received money for a road and we go and see there is no road, and the way we do these inspections is twofold. We have the National Government Administration, which at the lowest denominator of governance is the sub-chief, who works his way up the chain of command up until the regional commissioner, regional coordinator. Collocated to that is a PDU person allocated at county level. We go physically. There is no guesswork. And this is what development is all about.
And that is the response you then give the people if they ask you why we did not see those goodies?
The response for me is very simple. The reason why they still manage to get roads and the reason why they still manage to get projects is because some of us, myself included, articulated these messages to the administration and made them priorities. So in Machakos County, for example, there are roads that cut across from Konza all the way until Tala Donyo Sabuk. It is my intervention that made sure that those roads were completed in 2017.
We will not hear a contrary narrative from the current county government.
They can't say anything to the contrary because the Honorable Governor of Machakos County, Dr. Alfred Mutua, also had his development agenda, right? And he struggled very hard in order to ensure that he got support from the national government. I was always on the other end of that phone to make sure that the county received whatever support they needed from the national government to complete infrastructure. So I have maintained my role as an honest broker for all the leaders in the region to make sure that if they have development agendas that need some airtime, I will raise my hand. And I'll be in the room where we say, By the way, when people say Wakambas didn't vote for the president, I will say, look, Your Excellency, please, you know what these people need. Don't leave them out. And he didn't leave them out, which is why in 2017, in 2 elections, we still managed to get over 20% of the vote for the president in the county.
This is a very interesting perspective that I'm hearing from you, Nzoka Waita. Let me read feedback. I promised our viewers I'll allow some of them to weigh in. 22422 is the SMS line. Hashtag is Newsnight. Let's see what Kenyans are saying this evening. All right, let's put the first one up. We start with Twitter. All right, Abdirahman Mohammed Ali, he says, Waita is brilliant and focused. He wants to be the Machakos governor come 2022. People will decide who is their choice, but he's a man for the job too. Okay. Charles Odhiambo, so you still have this job for the next, how many days remaining? 7 days or so?
8 days.
So this is not about Machakos. Let's see, please ask Nzioka why the 85 innovations that were selected by the COVID-19 ICT Advisory Committee have not been implemented. Only 85 out of 76 were selected by the committee that was set up by ICT CS Musheru in April 2020. Until now, nothing seems to be happening. Okay. If you note that, let's read one more. Mombiji, you're saying, please ask him what happened to land compensation for hundreds of project-affected persons left hopeless and helpless holding valid land ownership documents after construction of the SGR Phase 2A. Some already in depression after years of toiling. I'd mentioned Fred Obachi Machoka had a question. Let me pull that up here. Where is that message from? You know, these messages sometimes can be so many. And I'll read a tweet. Okay, I think I've seen the Machoka one now. He says, kindly ask Bwana Nzioka about the Gongsu Road. It's been under construction for years with only 20 kilometers to complete. We're getting stuck along the escarpment routinely on our way from Gusiland. When will it be completed? Okay, so take those for now. Or maybe we can ask one more that's on the screen. Lenny Gax on Twitter is asking, ask Nzioka what it takes to take up the Chief of Staff office in the Republic of Kenya, or better yet, any advice to the next Chief of Staff. Let's hold on. I know there are more messages. Let's give him a chance to respond to a few of those. Okay.
On the ICT innovations, I'll really just talk to the Honorable Cabinet Secretary and I'll tweet what the status is. Okay. And give a coherent response, because I'm not in the business of guesswork. So allow me to consult and give a proper answer. Now, on the SGR, anybody who's not been compensated on the SGR is because there are question marks about the valuation process and corruption that was involved in the valuation process, specifically in 2 areas, in Mariakani area, Ngong, Twala, and Rongai, where compensation figures were grossly exaggerated. The previous officers of the Land Commission had been compromised, and there are court cases to that effect that have affected the compensation of project-affected persons. So, unfortunately, some innocent people have been caught up in the process. EACC, the DPP, the State Department for Lands have a sort of method they're trying to go through where they would agree to release first the compensation amount that the government valuer finds reasonable, and then leave the rest in escrow until the court cases are determined. But it is a priority. The National Lands Commission has been very efficient under the new leadership of Otachi and Kabale. They have really helped us to unlock hundreds of projects across the country that were affected by compensation issues. But compensation in Kenya is a bit of a racket. And this is why we are so cautious with it, because we have projects. I'll give you an example. The Eldoret bypass, the whole bypass, infrastructure, bridges, consultancy, engineering, everything, probably costs just shy of 4 billion shillings. The compensation for the land is now, we are hitting probably 5.5 billion. Which country can afford to develop on that basis? And half of this is criminal enterprise. And this is replicated in many places. So even before any compensation bill is paid, you must look at it 3 times, 4 times, really just check the amount of speculative involvement in compensation, where people with knowledge about the expansion of infrastructure accumulate land or somehow manage to get access to that land so that they can extort the government. We are now wiser. We have a good team that is doing some of this investigative work, and I believe there's a lot of more quality and thinking going into compensation.
So they should be patient. There is some work happening.
There will be, because all of them have award letters. Those award letters will receive compensation.
Okay.
Yes.
Any of the others they don't respond to?
Now, on the issue of Gongsu, that's a road that is very personal to me.
And I've gotten 2 messages on Gongsu.
Yes, I know that it's actually 11 kilometers that's remaining. And it's the 11 kilometers from Ewaso Kedong to the shopping center in Suswa along the narrow Kumaimahio highway. The challenge with that road, number one, is that it's a lot more expensive than originally budgeted for. And the reason for this is the seismic activity that goes on in the Suswa environment. That road, and anyone who's passing it will see the amount of foundation that it has required. Typically, when we are doing excavation for roads, you go down maybe half a meter, or and then you put in your rock, and then you compact it, and then you put the various layers. Gongsu, on average, the excavation and the rock foundation is going down about 1.5 meters. It's extremely expensive. The ground shifts. Even the the Maimahio Suswa Narok Road moves. There are places where you've seen it getting disconnected when there's earth tremors happening in that area. So we will finish it based on the resources we have. It's a lot more expensive than we planned, so it's moving a lot slower. The contractor can only work on the basis of resources released, but I'm pretty confident that it will be motorable end to end in the course of this year. I just
in the course of 2022?
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to use it because one of the sections of the safari rally will be down at the end of that road, inside the Kedong side. And
so it will be important to showcase that.
Yes.
Before I read more messages, Kenol Marwa dual carriageway.
Yes.
Status of that?
To be finished this year, while the president is still in office.
So that's before August?
Yes.
Is it April? Is it May? Might you be able to tell?
It will be done before August. The president has made his views very clear on the subject, that he wants to open that road when he still has his flag. Okay. Yes.
Let's pick a few more. Smalls DJ 254, let's put that up. Okay, ask Mr. Whiter, what will he do different to make Machakos town a city? It has a very long way to go. Okay, please, he's noting that. Spike GG, I think is the next one. Ask him what happened to the community road and similar roads in Syokimau. He made a promise to follow up. Nothing's ever happened. Not a single meter of road. Okay. Let's put up maybe 2 more. I know that there are so many. We probably won't go through all of them today. Michael, please ask Mr. Nzioka why he thinks it's the right time for the voters of Machakos County to be in need of his services and his political mandates. And maybe which political side is he playing for come August 2022? All right, and the last one here. Let's take the last one. Chester Nyantika. How has the government of Kenya been structured and synchronized vis-a-vis devolved units and the interior to avoid duplication of service delivery? What's the equivalent of assistant county commissioner and deputy county commissioner in the previous dispensation? I think we're going to have to stop it there. Nzoka, go ahead.
Okay. Let's start. My dream for Machakos is to make it the metropolis for Nairobi. It is within Machakos County, Kiambu County, Murang'a County, and Kajiado County are within the Nairobi ecosystem. So I want to make sure that the county of Nairobi benefits, number one, from the growth of the Nairobi metropolitan and metropolitan infrastructure. Nairobi can only expand in the direction of Machakos. And when the expressway is done, Machakos' role as the bedroom of the city will be reinforced because the city can only expand in that direction. And anyone with a contrary view just needs to come right down to Kitengela interchange and see for themselves. My aspiration is to create wealth for the county because all new investment that is developing in the city, industrial developments, housing developments, are coming into the county. We want to facilitate that. And the reason we want to facilitate that is because we need the revenue to go and build markets in Didini, to go to Mwala, to go to Wamunyu, to go to all those places. My home village in Kiatuni, places in Mumbuni, inside there where they need this infrastructure, and they have no revenue. So there's no money to be generated there, but there is need for services to be provided. So I want to leverage the Machakos metropolitan dream, because it must be a metropolis. The reason why we are within the circle of influence is because we want to be a metropolis. It's the same aspiration that Kiambu, Kajiado, and Murang'a have. And I don't see why we need to shortchange the people of Machakos. I will give them a city. I'll give them the makings of a city in 5 years, because
they had been promised a city before, so they are listening to you quite keenly.
They need to listen to me, because mine is based on the understanding of what I am seeing today. You know, when we had a discussion with Honorable Cabinet Secretary James Macharia about where the expressway should start, it was initially supposed to start at the exit of JKIA. And I asked him, Waziri, can you guys please, let's look at the feasibility, because we need to decant Mombasa Road from as far down as Mulolongo. And he said, okay, we are looking at the numbers, so let's see if the numbers justify that decision. And when they did the initial feasibility, we are looking at incoming traffic every morning of 70,000 cars coming in per day into Nairobi from that part of the city. Those people are all coming from Kajiado, they're coming from Machakos, they're coming from Makueni and from Mombasa along the highway. Seeing how that development occurred and what it has done, what it will do for Machakos County, the roads that need to connect from Lukenya going all the way until Joska and Kamulu, those roads are within the metropolitan plan. But again, this infrastructure does not get built unless you lobby and fight for it, right? And that is my intention, is because I know what the metropolitan infrastructure looks like. I also know the realities of what counties can generate initially. They don't have the resources to do mega infrastructure projects. But the national government has within its blueprint the development of infrastructure. And I want to make sure that the county has a seat at the table when the planning is being done for the expansion of Nairobi, that the Machakos metropolitan area is included, which will allow me to take the money that we generate in the county from on-source revenue and from shareable revenue to doing access roads in the rural parts of Machakos. Because then I can improve the ability of our food to get to the marketplaces, our people to get to hospitals, but at the same time, I let the national government do what they should be doing to expand the metropolitan area. And the metropolitan blueprint is extremely impressive because it's what the future of Kenya is dependent on.
Okay, I'll have to stop you there so that you can respond to the other message. Duplication of
infrastructure.
Government. PDU is under the Office of the Presidency. Next, it's under Interior. Just help clarify that.
PDU is under the Ministry of Interior. The Ministry of Interior is in the Office of the President. So I don't know what other answer. The substantive boss of the PDU is the chair of the NDICC, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, right? And he is tasked to ensure that the President's development agenda gets done, right? And we give him the data. We make sure he has the information to make decisions. We support the cabinet to make sure that we can go to the ground and give them actual facts about what is going on. Now, this change happened because of the simple requirement to validate information, and we needed to collocate the PDU with the National Government Administration. There is nobody who knows your stories like the assistant chief. That guy knows how many chickens you have. He knows when you don't come home. He knows when you have domestics in your house. These people know everything. So why not leverage their knowledge to check whether the contractor is taking us for a walk down the garden path, whether the resident engineer for the implementing agency has received a bribe to give the status of the road that it's not, roads are paid on certificate basis. So a certificate is presented and the resident engineer will approve it in the first instance and send it up the food chain. And payment is released. We have seen payment made for roads that don't exist. And I put that to an end because we made this information available and transparent. And we allowed the line ministers to exercise and take decisions for consequence management. They fired people, they changed the organization, they improved accountability. And that's really what we've done as PDU to make sure that there's project transparency.
There must have been backlash.
There's a lot of backlash. There are people who don't like me, and I'm sure once I lose the protection of my office, there will be regular visitors to myself. But
what do you mean by regular? Of a hostile nature, over?
When you interfere with the food chain, people get annoyed. But it's a job. It's not personal.
That's a very curious statement that you've made. Are you fearful for your life or more of political?
No. The country is safe. Our security agencies are awake. But you have to be alive to the fact that, it's not a popularity. I'll never win a popularity contest in that group of people.
I mean, at some point in the midst of everything, we saw you tweeting, when a lot of changes were happening, you disowned certain Twitter accounts as official Twitter accounts, the President KE, PSU Digital, and you directed that the official accounts would be State House Kenya, First Lady Kenya, etc.
Yes.
Was that part of the backlash? That was a curious move.
It's now clear to everybody to see which people used to come to work, to do work and work for the president. I think now it is apparent for everyone to see that the people we chased from State House, who were up to no good, had another agenda. They were distracting the head of state, and they were distracting the government, and they had to be removed. And that is my job.
Who are these people?
There's no need to name names. They know themselves, and they complain and whinge every day. But if I was asked to do it again, I would do it in a heartbeat. Nothing should interfere with the agenda of the sovereign.
Chief of Staff, as we wrap this up, I'm trying to look at SMSs. It's more roads and roads. I don't know how I'll send this to you so that you can tweet about them in the last few days you have.
I'll be happy. I mean, our agencies are super responsive.
Okay.
Kura, Kenha, Kera, I mean, they are very active on Twitter. They answer responses. But the reality is this. Look, it's been difficult 2 years. We are trying to pay contractors to get them back on track. It's been a difficult 2 years. And if you sit with the Honorable Cabinet Secretary for Infrastructure, he has put quite a number of fiscal instruments into the market through the central bank, infrastructure bonds, all purposed to support our contractors who are on the ground. We are very proud of the fact that we have Kenyan engineers, consultants, and designers building a big portion of our infrastructure. There's huge skills transfer taking place with major engineering concerns from China and Japan sharing their skills with our engineers. And you can just see the quality of the roads. People now can start to wonder what used to be built in our country, because now you see a road and you see, how come there are so many layers to this road? What were these other people doing? Yet the BQ was the same and we were being charged the same amount of money. So there is a good side to this story, Wahiga.
Okay. We hope we'll see it in a book.
Yes.
One day.
I can't write a book because I probably wouldn't get clearance for it.
I have two final questions, then we wrap this up.
Yes.
Do you have something you wanted to say before I ask them?
You just asked me about the synchronization to avoid duplication.
Yes, of roles.
Between, right? So the national government infrastructure is designed to deliver national government services. You need an ID. You need a birth certificate. There are things you need from the national government which are in the schedule of national government responsibilities. The county government has also got a schedule of responsibilities it must undertake. The problem we have had is the adversarial perception that these relationships must be adversarial. They should not. I will be very happy accommodating national government officials because I want my people to get IDs. I want my young guys who finish school to get their ID so that they can get on with their lives. I want them to be recruited into the public service, into the military, into the police, and by having an unnecessary tiff with the national government, it's a waste of everybody's time. I want to be able to say that the national government has its roles which are clearly defined. We have, county governments will have their roles that are clearly defined. All we need to do is make sure that people just accommodate each other. And it's not hard. In the counties where it works seamlessly, I know governors who have very regular security briefings. They have very cordial relationships with their county commissioners, and it works to their benefit because the national government does provide the bulk of the services.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Let me read the last set of messages because we do need to wrap this up. So I'll read an SMS here. 22422 is his SMS line. Nixon Dugire from Kinderuma says, there's a dire need to have a well-defined role of the deputy governor as well as of the deputy president, and to do away with the arrangements where they don't know where people are. Do you think, so let's focus on the deputy governor's role. Do you think that needs to be better defined as you then look to enter county politics? So hold off on that one. Another viewer is saying the Konza Techno City was touted as revolutionary. Land prices went through the roof, but very little has happened thereafter, at least the perception. Was it a lie? That's my second one. Dr. Isaac Kalua is even actually calling me.
Say hi to Isaac.
Nzioka says, hello. Green Thinking Action Party is the home for great minds like Nzioka Waita, where you have room to serve humanity, devoid of non-issues for God's glory. Karibu Kalua. Green Party leader. Okay, that one, I think he knows how to reach you. And I want to read a last message here, a curious one from Kimani Ichung'wah, Member of Parliament.
Yes.
He wants to know, why would Nzioka have to say about the ownership of PPP deals? That is just mentioned on Citizen TV.
Yes.
But Musalia Mudavadi told the nation that something about real owners. Does Waita know the real owners of the expressway PPP? Don't know where you want to begin. Four questions. Three questions.
Okay, let's start with the Konza. Konza is being built. It's taken a very long time. It probably didn't receive as much prioritization as it should, but Joe Musheru has taken it from a grassy patch with lots of zebras and swaras. There is now a HQ, there is a water system, there is a road network, there is allocation of land to the first anchor tenant, which is the Korean Institute of Science and Technology, KAIST. So it's making steady progress. Water infrastructure has been brought to site. Power upgrades have been done. They have their own substation. Rail infrastructure is under consideration to see whether a spur from the SGR can be done and terminated inside the city. We want to really support the anchor tenant because the anchor tenant in Konza will define how it grows. And I think it will be very important. I really look forward to a day when the first institution opens there. I have a vested interest in it now, a little bit more than what I had before. But Konza is a shared treasure, and it's shared between 3 counties. It's shared between Makueni, Machakos, and Kajiado. And I think between the 3 counties, we need to make it a success because we need jobs, technology and technology parks. We need to take advantage of the migration of industries from countries like China and give them a home here. Okay. We need to take advantage of the agreements we've signed, the economic partnership agreement with the UK, the FTA that we're discussing with the Americans. Where are we going to put these investors, particularly tech and tech innovation? We need to give them a home. And that, to me, is a home, and we will try to make it a reality.
Okay. Kimani had a question. PPPs.
PPPs, you know...
Expressway.
It's very difficult. It's always very difficult to report to conjecture. You know, it's always very difficult to report to conjecture. If these guys know who the owners are, why don't they tell us? You know, they are the ones who have the microphones, and they're all over the country. I mean, they are best placed to tell us who the secret owners of the PPP arrangements are. I think all they're trying to do... Are
they secret owners?
I mean, these documents are there for everybody to see. So, for example, I don't know how to answer that question because these are projects where the guarantees are provided by the World Bank. I mean, does the World Bank dwell in rumor mongering and conjecture? I mean, do we have so little faith in international institutions that it's only in Kenya where they perform guesswork? I think, you know, Kimani Ichung'wah, having been chair of a finance committee, I worked very closely with him, and he was an extremely supportive chair. and he did help us to achieve the government objective. But if there is something he knows about the PPP, then, you know, it's up to him to go say it wherever he wants to say it.
Maybe he'll present it. You said you can be reached on Twitter.
Kimani knows me, and I know him, and I think we would not miss a place to say hello to each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question: role of deputy governors, having looked at 2 terms of the county system so far.
Okay. I'm an organizer. I've spent my life building careers, building organizations, and creating order. That's what I do. I create order. You can't function alone, you know. And any leader who wants to be worth anything must work with a team, you know. And I think we've got it wrong about how we function with the deputy governors. And I think the real fear emanates from the impeachment process. That's where the real fear emanates from. Because people are scared that the first time I get into office, my deputy is going to spend all their time engineering for me to be impeached so that some other person can get the job. But I think, like any other working environment, you know, it is the duty of the individuals to create that working relationship. The definition of the job maybe should be provided with a bit more clarity. But the duty of the governor, it is the duty of the leader to provide direction and to provide a cohesive working environment for the people they are working with. There are no bad people, only bad managers, you know. And if you become a bad manager because you're insecure, or you can't, you don't like alternative opinions, or you can't agree to disagree, then you'll always have that problem. But you should have your deputy governor. You chose them in broad daylight. So really, there must have been a reason why you did it. And, you know, like any relationship, it requires investment and time.
Nzioka Waita, in the interest of time, for some reason, at 11:30, people are still sending so many messages, 22422, #NewsNight. We're going to have to leave it there.
Is it 11:30?
Yes, a few minutes to 11:30. So let's wrap it up there. If it wasn't for what you're talking about, Machakos County and your aspirations there, what else would you want to do after the kind of post you've had?
I'll probably open a restaurant and serve people really good meat.
That was very unexpected.
Yeah. I love food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. And we'll keep talking clearly.
Thank you.
As a result of what you've just told us this evening. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. Nzioka Waita, Chief of Staff, State House, thank you for your time this evening. And to all our viewers who've tuned in, patiently watching this broadcast and sending in your questions, we tried to ask as many as we could. And thank you for sending them in via SMS and via Newsnight as well. A very interesting time that we find ourselves in the country's politics. And here on Newsnight every Tuesday, we seek to bring you the duty bearers, opinion shapers, to help you really understand what's happening. And clearly, for the next couple of days, there will be some high-profile resignations, and you'll get it all first here on Citizen TV. Thanks for tuning in. My sign language interpreter this evening has been Wilson Mushora. And on behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible, asante sana, good night, stay safe. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.